Hi, welcome back to my channel. This week I'm very excited to have special guest Bianca Toeps, who has written the amazing book, But You Don't Look Autistic at All, which I read recently and contacted Bianca on Instagram and asked her if she would like to come and have a chat with me on my channel because I found her book. I've read a lot of books about autism, as you can imagine, and not many of them do I actually sort of feel a personal resonance with, but Bianca's book, as well as having two interests which are very much aligned with my passions, I just felt like the way that she explains her experience but also includes some kind of factual information about autism and the theory surrounding autism is a really helpful thing. So I wanted to let you all know about her amazing book and find out more about Bianca. So welcome to my channel.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I'm Bianca. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm sorry if my English is not very it's fine, but it's not perfect. Don't worry if you buy the book, it's translated and corrected by like native speakers. So that's fine. But yeah, so I'm from the Netherlands. I am hopefully soon moving to Japan, but the borders are still closed because of So yeah, I am a website developer and a photographer and a writer now. I have I wrote this book. I got my autism diagnosis when I was like 25, 24, 25. I always forget exactly when, but around 25. After I had an eating disorder when I was like 20. So there were always things like when I was like 4 years old and I went to school, the trouble started right away. Like I couldn't cope at all. But yeah, it took quite a long time before I got diagnosed. And then, I used to write blogs on my personal blog, and I started writing about autism a little bit there because at first actually I was trying to like keep it a secret because I was still I was doing a lot of photography, some web building, but especially for the photography I was a bit worried that people would think that I would not be, I don't know, I wouldn't be reliable or something. I was just scared that they wouldn't want to work with me anymore. So at first I hid it for a while, but then I just wanted to tell people what's going on, but I also wanted to like sometimes react to like articles in the media. Sometimes you see something you're like, no, this is so wrong. I want to say something. So that's what I started doing, and then then a publisher like asked me like, do you want to write a book? And I was like, yes, of course. I always wanted to, but I didn't feel like going around like, hello, I have this book, would you publish it? I mean, it just didn't feel right. But then when the publisher came, I was like, oh yeah, well, now I can do it. So yeah, that happened. I really love Japan. Like I said, I'm trying to move there, and I really like Disney as well, like Disneyland, mostly the Disney parks that have been like a reoccurring theme in my life or something. Like, how do you say it? Yeah, in Dutch we would say like a red thread, but I don't know how you translate that to English.
I like that. Maybe it doesn't need translating. A red thread. That's nice.
Yeah, it's a thread that goes all through all of the things in your life.
Could we make it a pink or a purple thread, maybe?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm so glad that you did write your book. As I said, so much of it resonated with me. And what I really liked about it is that the first third of the book is about different kind of theories of autism. You talk about and debunk the theory of mind, and you talk about the intense world theory of autism, which, having worked as an advocate for 6 years now, I thought I'd heard everything there was to hear about autism. That was a new one for me, so that was really useful. So I wanted to ask you, you've already answered sort of why you decided to write the book, but who did you write the book for? Who is your target audience, and what was the process of writing it like?
I think it's both for like people, like autistic people themselves, but also for like people like around, like your family, your friends, to just tell them like, this is what it is, this is what it isn't. And like there's like these 8 things we don't want to hear anymore, like the stupid things people say, like, yeah, did your mom love you enough? Yeah, just so I just it's like both. It I think I a lot of people tell me like, oh, I bought the book and then I gave it to my parents and my boyfriend and to tell them, because sometimes they have trouble finding the words, and then they're like, okay, read this book, it explains.
Yeah, you mentioned that you love Japan and Disney, and I've actually just booked a Disneyland Paris trip for next June, which I'm very excited about because I haven't been for 2 years because of the pandemic. So yeah, I love Disney. I love the Disney parks. I've been to the Florida park and I've been to the Paris park. This will be my 3rd visit. So obviously I'm going to have to ask you, who is your favorite Disney character and what is your favorite Disney movie?
Yeah, I thought about that for a long time because I don't know. Because yeah, it's for me, it's like the parks, like the parks, and then the songs, and then the movie. So I think if I had to choose, I was thinking in Beauty and the Beast, when Belle is walking through the village and they start singing like look at the strange girl, she always goes to the library. And then I was watching that video like a few months ago, and it's like, this is so autistic. I mean, this is what it is like when you're Belle and you're like, books, yay. And then every day you go to the bookstore like, oh, do you have new ones? And then it's like, no, not since yesterday. And then the whole town is like, look at that strange chick. And then of course, if she would have gotten an autism diagnosis, then afterwards they would have said like, she doesn't look autistic at all. But before, they all notice. They're all like that. Like, she's strange. She's not like us.
It's so interesting you said that, because I actually made a video in which I talked about Belle as an autistic headcanon. So I completely...
Really?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And her dad too. I mean, he's the inventor. I mean.
Yeah. And possibly even the Beast could be some kind of metaphor for some kind of neurodivergence if you looked at it in that way. They definitely connect because of their like understanding of being the outsider, right?
Yeah. But mostly about Disney, we went there. We went to like Euro Disney when it was still called Euro Disney, when I was, I think, 8 years old. It was like my dad and my stepmother's honeymoon, and I think I was 7 or 8, and then we went there for the first time. And I remember I didn't want to go at first because I was told there would be a lot of shops, and as a little child I hated like shopping. So I was like, no, we're not gonna go shopping. I don't want to go there. And then well, after we were there, of course, I was like, wow, this is amazing.
I know what you mean about the parks and the stuff like that, because yeah, for me it's I got into Disney because my gran had been to Disneyland in Florida and come back with loads of pictures and loads of stories about having been there, and I was like, oh my god, that sounds like heaven, I need to go there. I didn't get to Disney until I think I was like 19 the first time that I went. And in your book you talk about saving up for a trip to Disney as kind of a goal, and how you and your friends set this goal, and that's how you learn about kind of being able to set goals and meet those goals. And since I read that section in the book, I have decided that going to Tokyo, I'm going to take some inspiration from your goals, and I'm going to set the goal of getting to Tokyo and start saying,
so cool,
make that happen. So thanks for that. I was like, I read it and I was like, oh yeah, I could just decide to make that happen. I hadn't really thought about it like that before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, it was. I'm still very thankful that my mom allowed me to go. I was 15. I think I was there twice. Like the first time was the honeymoon. The second time was when my little brother was 4 years old with my father again. And my parents are divorced, so I lived with my father first and then with my mom. So I was living with my mom when I was 15, and she said, well, you can do it if you can like save and plan and like show me you have everything like thought of, and then you're allowed to go. She's like, it's just like a test. Like if you can do all this, I have faith you can do the rest as well. So me and my best friend, we got tomatoes of tomato plants for a whole summer. And then we saved up enough to go there. So that was really, really yeah, like a life-changing realization. But when I was in when I had my eating disorder, I was in like 3 day a week treatment where you stay at home, but you go there 3 days a week, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, something. And then usually like in the weekends, they always like, what are you going to do this weekend? And or they ask on Monday, like, what did you do this weekend? You have to tell like, how did it go? And sometimes I just like came back like, yeah, I was in Disneyland yesterday, and they would look at me like, how? But yeah, I found out like from The Hague, where I lived at the time, you could take a train at 6:30 in the morning and be in Disneyland at 10, I think, or like when it opened. And then like it was like in off season, so it closed at 6 again. So you could go back at 6:30 and then you'd be back home at like 11:30. So I used to do that on like Sundays. So yeah, that was cool.
Okay, so moving on from Disney onto Japan, why did you become interested in Japan in the first place? Or was it just that you went there and realized you really liked it?
Exactly. I didn't know anything about Japan when I went there for the first time. It's just one of my friends, actually, who I just like met for 2 times before. She was there and she asked me to visit her. Well, actually, my boyfriend and I broke up, and so I wrote something about it online, and she said, "Oh, oh no, just come here and come to me in Japan," because she was there for 2 months. And she said, like, you can come here, you can just stay with me. And I was like, well, actually, wait, they have a Tokyo Disneyland in Japan. I might want to do this. So and I also like had a tax refund, just got it. Like I was like, oh wait, I have this money. There's Tokyo. And my relationship is over. I won't leave this house anyway. So it was all like came together and I just went. Yeah, and then I was there and I just was like, wow, this is so cool. And so I mean, and also my friend Man is her name. She's a big inspiration. She was there for 2 months. She just did it, and she showed me. I mean, I already knew for a little bit, but she showed me like you can really do anything you want if you just. I mean, not everything you want, but you can if you want something, and it's like people will think it's strange or it's. I mean, doesn't matter. You can just go and do it. And I was like, wow, she just does things. So yeah, and then after that, I decided that I was going to do the same thing. And yeah, first I wanted to like do photo shoots because I was still into a lot of photography. I was doing a lot of work in fashion photography. It was a bit strange because I was like, yeah, it's weird to say about yourself, but they thought I was like super talented. So then they come like it went super quick, and then everyone goes like, "Oh, I want to work with you." And then I found a manager, and so all of a sudden I was shooting like fashion stories for magazines, and then I was like, I want to go to Japan, and well, we gathered a team with like a stylist and a makeup artist and a model, and then we went there. It turned out to be a disaster. So yeah, that was a bit sad, but yeah, then after that I went back to Japan, like to just for like I think for 3 days or so. I just wanted to go back and feel good about it again. Like we had this week full of like stress and failing photo shoots and fights and everything, and then I was like, I just really need to go back to Japan, just even for a couple of days, just to I don't know make it right. So, but since then, like I went for a month in 2012. That was the first time I went for like a long time. I'm like, for now it's like a month. That's short, but for then it was like, oh my god, a month. What am I gonna do? So yeah, that was the first time I was really like living there for a while, and yeah, it's just I realized how much more productive I could be and how calm I felt. So yeah, I just did it more and more and more.
Yeah, so to expand on that a little bit, in the book you do talk about how you feel like Japan is especially autism friendly. And side note, thanks for that, because my husband read that and went, oh, okay, we should go to Japan. And I was like, yes. It's been that
Nice.
for several years, but cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you talk about this. Can you explain that? Like, what is it that's easier in Japan?
Well, I do want to like place a little side note because I have a couple of Japanese friends in the Netherlands, and for them, it's the other way around.
Oh, okay.
Because if you're Japanese and you live in Japan, there is a lot more to your life. Like, how you say that? I mean, there's a lot more you have to do, and you have to, yeah, like, there's like all these occasions where you have to give people gifts, and and it's like, um, for me as a foreigner, there's a lot of things I don't have to do. That's like the one of the points as well. In the intro of the book, I already like, you arrive in Japan, you do everything wrong, you don't understand anything, but it's fine. And then it's like you have this, usually when you're autistic and nobody notices and nobody sees it, you do things wrong and people like get mad. But when you as an autistic go to Japan and you do the same things wrong, they just think, oh, it's a foreigner. She doesn't know how our social rules are, so no problem at all. So it's so, I don't know. It feels so liberating or something. Like it's like your autism becomes invisible or something. Or I mean, it was already invisible, but it's like,
So I guess you're kind of talking about the sort of the social model of disability, really, aren't you? Whereby maybe if you were at home, some of the things that are a problem became not a problem. So it became, maybe your autism became more invisible to you, even because those like barriers you kept hitting upon were less so. Is that what you're saying?
I think so, yeah. It's like because they blame it on something else. It's like, oh, she's a foreigner. She doesn't know it, so it's fine. And
Yeah, so
it's,
that like
yeah.
feeling of being a foreigner in a strange land that we just have as part of our like existence.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
Yeah, but then it's like it makes sense. Everyone has it. So it's fine. And there's also a lot of things in Japan, that's the other reason, that just work better when you're autistic. I mean, people in trains are quiet. People just, stand in line. Yeah, there's so many things that are just like organized, and like the way their social cues are, it works. I mean, they don't shake hands, they don't touch each other. I mean, yay.
Yeah,
I
like
really like that.
watching the movies, because my favorite movie for a really, really long time was Lost in Translation. Um, and just watching like the fact that like when they go out to dance, it's like a set dance that everybody does. I mean, I'm like, I don't know about Japan. This is just me like guessworking from what I've seen on, media. But the idea that they have, it's like, even in the nightclubs, everyone stands facing the same way and does the same particular dance would just really suit me, because I used to be a dancer, but put me in a situation where I'm supposed to just freestyle and just do whatever without any particular steps. And I'm like, I can't do that. And I
Hmm.
also really like the fact that it seems like there's a lot of places where you can like order your food and organize things just through like a computer rather than having to deal with an
Yeah,
actual
yeah,
person, which really appeals
exactly.
to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about, you had these questions you sent me beforehand, like what would you do on a day in Tokyo,
Mhm.
and where would you eat? And I was thinking like, yeah, usually when it's time to eat, I'm so tired, and so like I don't want to socialize anymore, so I would just choose a like Japanese style fast food restaurant and just order at a machine and just eat like €5 worth of, it's not unhealthy food, it's just like noodles or something. But
Mhm.
um yeah, I might be very disappointing in like culinary. I mean, I wouldn't go to some fancy place where it's like where you have to like have 8 courses and a chef is at your table. I'm like, no, no, I just like
No way.
I give the receipt to you, you give me food, I eat. And that's it.
Yeah, I think because I think we all handle our kind of difficulty in that area differently as autistic people, because obviously we're all different people. And I tend to respond to those like, I can't handle talking to a person by like talking way too much. I don't know why this seems like a good solution, but I just go with just like talking at the person until they go away, because it seems like a good solution. And I'm recently learning the art of just actually not doing that, and people seem to shut up quicker. But the idea that I wouldn't even have to deal, so I end up in restaurants having like really long conversations with waiters that I don't want to have because I feel like I need to be polite and friendly. So the idea of just like not having to deal with that is so appealing, definitely, especially I think because I'm in the, what country are you in at the moment?
The Netherlands.
We're in the Netherlands. Yeah, of course. Sorry, you said at the beginning.
No,
I'm in the UK, and there's a lot of people in the UK. We're a lot of people on a very small island. So there's a lot of dealing with people involved in every single thing that you want to do. And so reducing that would be fantastic, which moves me on nicely to the next thing I wanted to talk about, which you touched upon earlier, that you, the first time you went to Japan, you were involved in a very stressful fashion shoot where people maybe said things to you that weren't actually in your best interests, acting as if they were speaking to you in your best interest. And having been a dancer, and I'm guessing the fashion world and the dance world probably have a lot in common.
I think so, yeah.
I can really relate to that kind of like that sort of social game that I didn't know was happening and I didn't know the rules about when I started playing it. So I wanted to just ask you about what you've learned about navigating those kinds of working relationships and personal relationships.
I don't have as much stress because I kind of moved myself away from the really like fashion part of photography. Also, I do more websites now than I did before, so less photography, more websites. But yeah, like what happened in Japan was like things were starting to go wrong with our shoots with like all different reasons. Like one location was difficult to find, or like, you know, we wanted to like book a location at the spot and we couldn't. One of our models was like, we thought we had her for 2 days, but it was a miscommunication. We had her for 1 day. Like our model that we had like with us, she got an eye infection. Like everything was starting to go super wrong. Like the hotel that like one of the other girls booked was super small, and I had to sleep with man who was there as well, like as an assistant, in one bed because it was so small. So everything was a bit, yeah, everything was bad. But then they, like two of them, they were in the same room and they were like plotting this, like we had like one shoot for a magazine and we didn't like the pictures, and we were like, we're going to do this over again. Like on the last day we're gonna shoot again. But of course this magazine was like in my messages like, hey, how is it going, can you already show me? And I was like, shit. And I'm like honest, and I would tell them like, oh, I'm sorry, you know, things didn't turn out how we wanted to, so we're going to reshoot this Friday. And you know, but they were like, no, you cannot tell them, it's super unprofessional, it's going to look super bad, don't do it. And there I was like a bit scared of them. They were older because, you know, I was this young talent who just got picked up a year ago, so they were in this business for like a while. So I was like, oh, okay. And it felt very bad, but I was like, maybe I can blame it on like over in Japan, like bad internet. We were very busy. Let's not reply. I didn't like that. But then we did the reshoot. It looked cute. It was fine. It was like eventually it was in the magazine. People were giving me compliments like, oh, what a cute series you made. I was like, you should know. But yeah, then well, the day we returned, then they called me from the magazine and they were like, what did I hear? And I was like, what did you hear? Because I was like, we were not going to tell what happened, right? But then I found out they did, but they changed this, like they made the story in a way that everything was my fault and nothing was their fault. So I was like, wow, this is just because at that point you cannot go like, no, but they said, because that just looks super stupid. I mean, like very childish. So yeah, I looked very bad then. I noticed that happened like in fashion. It happened a lot that people try to, and not a lot, but too much. I mean, you know, they would pretend to be your friend and then they would like stab you in the back, or they just would pretend to be your friend to get free stuff. That's like that happened more often. It's like, oh my god, I love your pictures. Can you photograph my model for free? I was like, so yeah, I right now I just really try to trust my feelings about this, because I mean, you know, you feel when it's you feel that it's not right, somehow, somewhere you feel it, that like you feel used, you feel like this is not fair. And I just learned to really, really listen to it and then just accept the consequences no matter what. Yeah, and some if they're mad, if they walk away, fine, they walk away. I mean, yeah.
I think that's really interesting what you say about trusting your instincts, because maybe that's it, isn't it? Like, as children and as teenagers, we learn that we can't trust as autistic teenagers and children, we maybe learn that we can't trust our instincts, because whenever we follow our instincts, it doesn't seem to go well. And then, because I wasn't diagnosed until I was 36. So I like got married, had 3 babies, started a career, all with like no knowledge that I was autistic.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of like learning not to trust my instincts. And yeah, in the last couple of years, I have been kind of going, actually, you do get a feeling, don't you, about a situation, whether it's right or not. And like going along with the way that other people want to do things just because you don't want to annoy anyone doesn't necessarily end with well for you, does it? So yeah, I think learning to trust instincts, even if it's not necessarily what people want to hear or want you to do, is probably a really good tip for life.
But you're right. When we were younger, the people always say, when you say like, oh, I don't want to go to this place, I won't like it. They're like, no, you're gonna like it. You will love it. You just go there, and then you just do it because you don't want to be the one that's like, eh. So, but yeah, that happens a lot when you're younger. Like every time you say something like, I'm not gonna like this, or I don't want to, it's like, no, come on, it's fun. So yeah.
Afterwards, they say, oh, did you enjoy it? And you feel like you have to say yes, because otherwise they'll be offended, even though actually you were right and you didn't.
Well, it took me a while actually to find out like what I actually liked. I mean, I like the Disney parks. I know, because I would go there by myself with nobody there. Yeah. So I know I really like it, but like it sometimes I just realize, wait, it's not normal to like be completely dead after going somewhere or after a job. I thought it was just normal, so I wouldn't even, it's like, did you like it? Yeah, I'm dead for 2 days after, but I thought it was just part of it, and then after finding out that it, like sometimes when I'm building websites, it actually doesn't even feel like I'm working, because I don't get sick afterwards. And then I'm like, but this is just fun. How is this working? I mean, it's just, I did this and I'm still not tired. And why do I get paid for this? I don't know, because I'm so used to doing the photo shoot and then be like dead for a day and a half and be in bed with like migraines. And yeah, it took me forever to find out that that's not normal. Also, when I didn't have my diagnosis yet, when I chose photography to do, I knew I was getting like sick after each shoot, but I also knew like there's one shoot a week or something, and the rest is like editing pictures or preparing stuff, and then that you can do just alone in your house. So it was still like I only have to do one day. Like before I studied to be an accountant, like before I knew anything. And I worked like full time, and I couldn't do it. Like go to the office like 5 days a week, sit there with all these people. I mean, anyway, like after, like I can work in the morning, and then in the afternoon, I'm not productive anymore, but you have to sit there. So I would just like make up all these things to do, like let's get coffee, or let's get a file in the other end of the building. I don't know. I would just walk around like pretending to do stuff. So unproductive. Yeah. Actually, I mean,
it just shows that it's not one size fits all, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm going to work next Tuesday in a place that isn't at home, and I think it's the first time I've worked away from home for like 3 months. I'm already nervous about it. Yeah, I do enjoy it. And editing is one of my favorite jobs, because even with what I do in terms of making the videos, that's a lot of like obviously looking entertaining, but when I get to sit and just edit just on my own, just doing my own thing, I just find that really peaceful and really lovely. So just to finish up, and I think this is a really good point to kind of end on. In the last chapter of your book, as you say, you've got at the end of your book, you've got a section of things that we don't want to hear anymore, including kind of everyone's a little bit autistic. And that's great. I love that. And you talk about kind of the notion of picking your battles. So not like spending your whole life going, this isn't autism friendly, this is ableist, like in a constant kind of fight with the fact that the world isn't how it would ideally be. And I really related to that, because obviously my entire job being an advocate, I do have phases where I feel like every time I leave the house, the world annoys me. And that's just like no way to live. So yeah, can you explain that and what your approach is to dealing with the kinds of issues that you might face in the world as an autistic person now, in kind of terms of...
Yeah, well, I wrote that part because when I was writing, when I started researching, you find a lot of like activism, and you're at first it gets you really mad, and also like the history of autism and stuff, and you're just really angry, and you know all these things like the weird autism speaks videos where they're gonna like destroy autism or something and make it like a scary movie. And so you get so angry, and you get on Twitter and you get in these circles of activists, and I
Twitter's
was
the worst
like,
place for it, I think, to be honest.
I was quite angry when I think about like 2017, 18, and then like I slowly like switched a little bit, like I changed a bit, because I was like, this is not helping. This is just making you frustrated. And I mean, I really, really want to change. It's not like I just gave up. I'm like, okay, fine, let's be ableist. But I just noticed that like when you talk to people, or when you like now when I speak, I always speak to a lot of parents and non-autistic parents. And sometimes they have really outdated ideas. But what should I do? Get mad? Or I mean, they're not gonna take anything from me if I'm mad. And also, it's just for my own well-being. I'm not going to go around and see like everywhere around me like this is ableist, or this is sexist. That's like the same thing. You can just go around and see it everywhere, but then you would just feel super bad all the time.
Yeah, like that's a
And
lot of stress hormones to be going through your brain constantly, isn't it? To live like
yeah,
that.
and what you focus on, it grows, and it gets like, you will notice more, it will grow more. You will never like, a lot of things is like, well, sorry, things are not perfect, or sorry, but maybe you can give this person the benefit of the doubt because they, I don't know, they just said something silly because they don't know better, or they just, or even if they're mean, I mean, it's just one other person that's mean, who cares? I mean,
we're going to convince everybody in the entire world to think the same way as we do. It's just not actually possible.
no, and for me, it's important that I can just live my life the way I want to do it. And yeah, if I'm like happy with that, with myself, and with the things like how I have like, you know, how I structured everything, then it doesn't really matter to me what other people would say or think that much. Like if they come and like try to make rules that would impact me, and it's like makes no sense, of course I would get mad. But yeah, there's a lot of freedom to like live your life the way you want to. So I try to focus on that, and I noticed that it makes me much happier.
That's really good advice. So like kind of deal with stuff when it comes up, but don't go out looking for a fight.
No,
You don't need to. Yeah.
no, it makes you sad, I think.
I think that's a really good point, and I think that's really affirming for me, because I've always tried to be quite polite in my activism, which I think some people might think is a little bit pathetic, but actually, like you, I'm like, well, if I yell at people, they're not going to listen to me. And
No.
also, just because someone doesn't know all the right words to use doesn't mean their intention isn't good necessarily. And also, I can only do me. I can't control the way that other people behave. But sometimes I do feel like, yeah, especially on Twitter, I go on Twitter and I feel like, oh my goodness, I'm not an activist like how I should be an activist. I should be like constantly raging against the system, but I just
No,
can't
it's
live
so
like
bad
that.
for your it's so bad for your mental health. Also, I'm not perfect. I mean, I made like rude jokes about other disabilities maybe.
Right?
I mean, I made mistakes. I changed my mind. I have like, I said things, and now it's like, oh yeah, maybe you have a point as well. Like not everything is super black and white sometimes.
Yeah, like I
Yeah,
made
it's
a
like,
whole video about theory of mind back when I was first diagnosed, which I really must go and retract at some point, but it's out there and it's not what I think now. So yeah.
yeah, so that's just the process. And also the world changes. I mean, like things people said 10 years ago and that were still very normal and like acceptable jokes or something that are like nowadays are like, oh my God, I can't believe. And like, no, but that's like things change, people grow. Yeah, it's life.
Yeah, no, that's really great. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for giving me your time today. It's been really interesting to chat to you. What a privilege. If you guys have enjoyed this video, please do subscribe to my channel if you fancy and click the like button. And as always, I have a link to all the different ways that you can support me and make it possible for me to keep doing the work that I do. So if you have a look at the top of my channel, there's a link to a link tree and you can follow that and do any of the things that you fancy or none of them at all. Yeah, so thanks for watching and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.